All right, so it's been a while since I've looked at any movies or TV shows on this podcast. So today we're going to look at Hitchcock's The Birds. And instead of doing a general review, I'm going to ask a specific question. Why were the birds attacking? So we're really going to narrow things down on this one. And, there are many possible reasons why the birds might be attacking. In the birds, of course, one of the most obvious ones is that they view humans as prey or as a threat or something like that. And we're going to get into that. And of course, there are interesting elements to Hitchcock's films overall. In fact, something could be said about how, Psycho also has a lot of bird themes in it. You have the character named Marion Crane. You have the character Norman Bates, who has stuffed birds all over the place, and basically a lot of thematic tie-ins between various Hitchcock films. It's a little bit strange, um, and of course, the I read online that the term "stuffing birds" is slang for having sex with women um, in Brit speak. So there's that as well. But I don't really think that is so much in play in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. And another interesting thing about this movie, which sets it apart from Psycho, is that Alfred Hitchcock had a lot of music in Psycho, and The Birds has very little actual music. Any music that you hear is just what naturally occurs in the scene. And that's in stark contrast to what Hitchcock said about Psycho. He said 33% of the effect of Psycho was due to the music, but in this movie, you're really focused on the sound of the birds. And that might be sort of a clue that Alfred Hitchcock was going for more of a sort of deep look at the nature aspects of this movie, because he didn't have a lot of distractive elements, other than, I guess you could call the main characters, sort of a distraction from the question of why the birds are attacking. But, thematically, the characters are important, of course. And we're going to get into why this is such an important movie in the when animals attack sort of genre. So this is it's a classic movie from 1963. It explores the unsettling and unexplained phenomenon of birds turning aggressive and attacking humans. The film doesn't really provide a clear, definitive reason for the bird attacks, which adds to the mystery and suspense of the story. However, CBR.com notes that there's an article for ABC News where a journalist named Alexandra Ludka explains that a similar incident to the birds actually occurred around Monterey Bay, California in 1961. She writes that hordes of disoriented seabirds rammed themselves into the sides of homes, and she postulates that a flock of birds that had ingested toxic algae suffered amnesia, disorientation, and seizures, and sort of attacked people's homes because of it. So I do wonder if this movie was perhaps inspired, at least loosely, by such a true story. That would be one of several theories and interpretations that have been proposed by both audiences and film scholars over the years. And the ABC News piece suggests environmental disruption as a major cause of the problem. This theory suggests that environmental factors, such as pollution or changes in the ecosystem, may have disrupted the birds' behavior and caused them to attack. The film's opening scenes show seagulls congregating around the ocean, which could imply some sort of ecological imbalance. And, it of course suggests a looming presence of impending uh, bird attack etude. Bird attackitude. I just created a nonsense word. But it fits for this episode, damn it. So I'm going to stick with it. So there's also the matter of symbolic interpretation. Some viewers and critics have suggested the bird attacks represent a form of nature's revenge against humanity for its mistreatment of the environment and disregard for the natural world. This may be seen as linking synoptically with the environmental destruction theory. Another theory that ties in would be some variation on technological progress or how mankind tends to alienate itself from nature as humans cling to the advancements of technology and modernity. That's sounding a little bit Ted Kaczynski ish, but there's something to this theory. In fact, Hitchcock once remarked that, quote, television has done much for psychiatry by spreading information about it, as well as contributing to the need for it, end quote. So, that's not to say that television caused the bird attacks, but just, modernity, technology, the way that humans have impacted the natural environment by creating, a high tech, advanced industrial state and all that kind of fun stuff. So, birds going crazy may just be an exotic manifestation of mankind driving the world crazy through what it calls progress. That's, I think, a plausible interpretation of these bird attacks. On that note, there is also a psychological explanation. Hitchcock was known for delving into the psychology of his characters. In the birds, the attacks could be interpreted as a manifestation of collective anxiety or a reflection of the character's psychological turmoil. This one seems a bit assumptive, but keep in mind that the two main characters, lovebirds, are both relatively calm throughout the movie, so that seems to have some symbolic importance and definitely some psychological importance. It suggests some weird message about love itself being a powerful deterrent against, I don't know, bird attacks in this case. So I'm not quite sure what the messaging is, but maybe it's like how if you're calm around a dog, it is less likely to attack you or something like that. Or if you just appear like you're not a threat to an animal, you're perhaps less likely to provoke some sort of attack. It's definitely weird, but it also ties together with the symbolic angle. The film's lack of a clear explanation could emphasize the idea that the true cause is deeply rooted in human psychology or in our interactions with the world. The confusing meaning also suggests that peculiarities and complexities of life, how everything is really determined by a confluence of factors, which by most practical measures might as well be considered totally random. You know, um, that's an interesting consideration here as well. In a way, it's also a simple statement on how life is unpredictable and chaotic. And even though we may try to understand everything, we never truly can. And our lack of understanding and resources to help us understand is really the true cause of life's sense of mystery. So, when things go the most chaotic and we see destruction, we tend to be more baffled by life, right? Whereas if things are calm, we just tend to have a sense of normalcy, when we're not under threat. So in a way, this movie is also a sort of general comment on that. And of course, there's a more specific theory that is the nesting season aggression theory. Birds can become more aggressive during nesting season as they seek to protect their young. In fact, obviously, even some sports teams are named after birds for having a sometimes aggressive potential when defending themselves, and presumably they're young. So you have sports teams like the Falcons and the Seahawks, you know, suggesting a potential ferocity and competitive nature. The film's events could be an exaggerated portrayal of birds' protective instincts taken to some extreme levels. And then, of course, you have an apocalyptic interpretation. The bird attacks could symbolize an impending apocalypse or catastrophe as the bird's behavior becomes increasingly unpredictable and dangerous. In fact, there's even the man in the diner character who says it's the end of the world. And it'd be hard to say that character is necessarily wrong because such an event probably would seem apocalyptic. So, of course, that leads us also to the supernatural or unexplained phenomenon angle. And I have to say that a lot of these actually do tie in together. So they're not necessarily mutually exclusive in any way. They're just sort of augmenting each other. But, in keeping with the film's horror genre, some viewers may interpret the bird attacks as a supernatural occurrence, devoid of any rational explanation. And it's it's one of those things where I would argue that there are some rational explanations, but it's really a matter of perspective. I mean, what exactly makes sense and what doesn't? Things that seem to make sense, if you really put them under the microscope, they can end up seeming absurd and completely nonsensical. So, really, it depends on how you're tackling whatever you are looking at. I like that idea of, that there not being a real explanation, and that confusion seems to be a key part of what the horror genre is. And that's in addition to, birds savagely attacking school kids and pecking out someone's goddamn eyeballs and stuff like that. It all goes together to be a really confusing series of events. And that's a very important part of the birds, I think, is the fact that life is confusing and chaotic. It's important to note that Hitchcock intentionally left the cause of the bird attacks ambiguous, as he often enjoyed creating suspense and leaving audiences with some unanswered questions. So, the lack of a clear explanation follows sort of naturally along the idea of there being suspense in the movie because you don't know what's happening next and you don't know exactly where the story is going to end up. So the lack of a clear explanation, it allows for various interpretations and it adds to the film's eerie and unsettling atmosphere. Sorry, I kind of got tangled up in the words there. So I'm going to look at some more general facts about the movie now that we basically did tackle those different theories. At the 36th Academy Awards, Iwerks was nominated for Best Special Effects for his work on the film. The film was honored by the American Film Institute as the seventh greatest thriller in American cinema. Of course, it was released by Universal Pictures, so it makes you wonder how come the birds are not considered a universal monster. They kind of could be. To me, this movie, it deserves sort of a standing ovation. I think that if it was screened in a public place, I I think I'd be at least tempted to stand up and give a round of applause. Tippi Hedren received the Golden Globe Award for New Star of the Year, actress in 1964, and she shared it with Ursula Andress and Elke Sommer. And she received it for this movie, of course. And The Birds received positive reviews from critics. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's certified fresh at 93% rating based on reviews from 59 critics. So the website's consensus states, proving once again that build up is the key to suspense. Hitchcock successfully turned birds into some of the most terrifying villains in horror history. And with that, I actually agree. I'm not a huge fan of Rotten Tomatoes. They shockingly often get it wrong, but occasionally I do agree with them. Hitchcock's masterwork has endured not just because it is stunning and it has a lot of great acting, but also has flawless direction. I would say this is one of Alfred Hitchcock's best movies, if not his best movie. I don't know. I've always been a pretty big fan of this one. So let me know about your theory about what actually provoked those birds to attack. You know, there are definitely some theories that I kind of left out of this, including, I mean, let's face it, there there might even be a theory that they're attacking just because of Tippi Hedren's character and how hot she is, or something like that. I mean, as crazy and dumb as that theory sounds to me when I say it, it's a possibility. Who knows? Alfred Hitchcock definitely had the hots for Tippi Hedren, and he was apparently, allegedly abusive to her on set, at least according to Tippi Hedren herself. And I guess that happened sometime after the movie came out as well. So there's even something to that zany theory. So really, as far as I'm concerned, there aren't that many theories about the birds attacking that I would totally consider stupid, including even that one. I wouldn't say that one's totally out of bounds. So go ahead and let me know about what your favorite theory is about this movie. And I think I've said enough. All right. Have a nice day.